What's going on, everybody? It's David Pietek and Dwayne. I got a video for that Kimball out of
You
Tampa,
know what?
warm, unlike Chicago where it did snow.
It's 65 degrees here, so we're cold.
Yeah, okay, sure. You're gonna need a jacket for that.
Actually, we went out last night. I had a jacket on,
Did you?
and I
That's
and I
funny. I'd
had.
be like in flip flops and shorts.
Uh, I catch a cold. I do that.
That's funny.
Uh,
Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. I think I know on my feed it kind of says finishing the year strong, V loan and V disability, because you really got to start thinking about stuff now, right before the end of the year, to get yourself squared up for next year. Because, like I always say, Dwayne, V loan benefits seem to get better, and V disability stuff seems to get worse over time. So it's kind of wild, but I guess we'll give you guys like a update on what's happening, I guess, on both sides. Doing, if you want to start on some of the changes that are happening via disability, and I'll kind of talk about some of the home loan stuff. I think right now they're voting on ending the government shutdown, which is very positive.
yep.
But yeah, if you want to talk a little bit about what's happening with VA disability changes right
Right.
now and maybe some proposals.
Yeah. Well, no proposals that I've heard of or seen. Any notifications I've gotten from the VA website. The shutdown. The thing about the shutdown, David. There's been a lot of information out there. Misinformation, I should say. Um, Individuals were furloughed, meaning, and furlough means different things. There's people that are still working that still got paid because they were hired under a different budget. And the VA, they may have like 3 or 4 different budgets. So the people I believe that got hired in for the PACT Act under that particular budget, they're still working um, and getting paid. I don't know to the extent of those individuals under the PACT Act if it was during a certain time frame. There are individuals that got furloughed that considered non-essential, and there was a lot of management. Okay, they were off. Now I think they've been off maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or something like that. And in the bill, they could have been a free vacation because they could get back pay, or maybe not. Right? That happened when I was a rated. Pills were out 2 weeks and they came back, got back pay. I was hot. I'm like, and they were bragging about, I got a vacation, I'm chilling. Now, here's the downside to this, David. People don't understand. You have people that were, they signed that executive order requiring people to come back in the office, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, those people that are deemed essentials, VSRs, RVSRs, droves at the pill level, they still have to work. They missed 2 or 3 checks. So now they have to drive in the office, put gas in the car, not getting paid. And there were some individuals that were like telling their landlords, hey, I can't make rent. You know what the landlord told them? Ain't my problem. Ain't got nothing
Yep.
to do with me. So now, how does that impact veterans? They're at work doing your claim, frustrated and frustrated based on they can't, you know, uh, pay their daycare. They can't put gas in a car. They can't buy groceries. They're very limited what they can do, but they still got to drive to work and figure out what your effective date is. So that's why I was telling people when I did my videos, I'm like, that's the where I see it being impacted. And, what could veterans do to help alleviate that? Understanding the claims process, making sure when they say they have a fully developed claim, they have a fully developed claim. So that person at the VA that's going through that and have all this other stuff on their mind can move your claim to the next stage. But like you said, hopefully they vote on it tonight, get some type of resolution, and people can get paid. And I think my thing is, what are the long term effects from this? We had
Yeah.
nobody's been talking about this. What is the long term effects from this? You know,
Definitely. Yeah.
but
And I think that's the crazy part from our end too, from a financial perspective. I think, Dwayne, we're always talking about budgeting, right?
mhm,
So I think if moving forward that if there is a future government shutdown, that you should save at least 2 to 3 months of reserves, right? And
hey,
that's We're always talking about that on VA housing education, both from a real estate home ownership perspective, but an emergency perspective, right?
Hmm.
You just don't want to be in a bad position.
So what could people have done to have VA home loans? Was there anything out there of that, people that had VA home loans that were government employees? Was there any type of assistance out there due to people being laid off?
There wasn't any direct assistance to mortgages. And like you mentioned, right? Just because you can't make a mortgage payment, a landlord has to make a payment. And what happens if that landlord can't make that payment because you don't make their payment? It just kind of screws up the whole financial piece to it, right? Like credit report. Now, people were able to borrow from different institutions, but one thing that I think people forget: just because you serve in the military or a government employee, you still need credit for them to give you a loan to cover your expenses, right? And so a lot of people are like, well, you know, blank bank denied me, but because you might have not had good credit or you had some late payments, so all of that is affected, and that's why you really don't want to live on the edge every month where one thing goes wrong and all of a sudden you have a domino effect. Because, like, look, at the end of the day, these creditors weren't like, oh, okay, well, you can't pay your bills, there's a government shutdown. They still had lates on their credit reports if they didn't make their payments on time. And that kind of leads me to something else. I'm sure you remember, like, back in June 30th, passed the Senate, the House, the president signed it into law. That was because I was actually just looking it over. That was the HR 1815, the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act, right? So that was there, or is there, to replace the VASP program that went away earlier this year. And the crazy part is, like, there still hasn't been any movement with that, right? So we have something that's a law that's supposed to help veterans that are facing foreclosure or facing housing issues with their mortgage, to provide them some relief. But that's just been like a big hole in that, and we haven't seen any movement, which I think, Dwayne, is kind of crazy. Now, were Raiders still working in full force? Because, like, we helped some people buy homes during the government shutdown that were VA
Mhm.
employees. But yeah, I found it odd, like you mentioned, like they were still getting their full paychecks. So you're saying, like, there's a whole different bucket of money that's not with the VA, but if you're a VA employee, you can still get paid?
Yeah, so from my understanding, even when I worked there, like when I got hired in, I was hired in on a certain um what do they call it? I can't remember what they call it, but a certain plan. And that's a bucket of money that they have to hire certain individuals, right? At a particular time. And so another budget, it could have ran low or ran out or been part of a particular bill or something like that. And the bill didn't get they didn't sign anything else new bill into place or put a new bill into place or something like that. So yeah, it it was from my understanding VSRs, I think it was a lot of VSRs that were still.
Hey, Dwayne? Hey, guys, you know what? I don't think Dwayne's audio might have cut out, because can you guys hear that? Yeah, so Dwayne, I think you were just talking with no audio feed. So I think Dwayne, no, can't hear you right now. See, having some real life technical difficulties. Can't hear ya? Gotta get the glasses on. Love it. Well, while Dwayne is figuring out his audio stuff, let me go actually break into something that actually was recently proposed for affordable housing. And let me know if you guys heard about this. but there was a 50-year mortgage proposal that was put out there. And I'm actually doing a whole video on that, kind of breaking that down for everyone. Can you guys hear me? Let me know in the comment section if my audio is coming through just fine. Can you guys hear my stuff? Let me see. Let me see if we get a response. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah, my audio is not. Can you hear me, Dwayne? Yeah, okay. Karen, you can hear me. All right, perfect. All right, cool, guys. Well, while Dwayne figures that out, I'll just kind of finish that off. So the proposal right now is for a 50-year mortgage to be offered out to people for more affordability. Now, the crazy part of this whole thing with the 50-year mortgage proposal, I'm definitely not for it. Even like 40-year loan modifications, not for it because of the amount of interest you spend over the life of a loan, which like even on like I think a $400,000 mortgage on a 50-year, let's say for educational purposes, only a 6% is like you're paying like 500,000 more in interest. It's something ridiculous to do that. So if that does come out eventually, I highly encourage you guys not to get one of those. But that is something that has been proposed currently. Now, in theory, what they're trying to do is to bring down the monthly payment, but overall the interest that you pay on that is just insane. And I'll let Dwayne in when he comes back in. I'm just sure he just had some audio issues that came up. We've been there before. I've had my camera die before. I think when we did our 12-hour live event, that was kind of crazy for that. Some of the other stuff that has been going on right now, just in general across the country, has been adjustments in pricing of homes. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that. There's been a lot of articles that have been out there just talking about home prices dropping in certain areas. And mostly that is because there's been adjustments for the season. Okay. That's just important to note on that piece because a lot of people are worried about that, but they're still just having issues with securing loans. And then another good piece with that is recently, as of last month, VA home loan usage has actually been up pretty a good amount in certain areas across the country, and this is really where having your VA home loan is starting to really shine because in the competitive markets, for whatever reason, veterans kind of get steered away from using their VA loan benefits because people will tell them it's not competitive and 100% not true. So we've actually been able to see more veterans get into home ownership last month because it's not as competitive. So those are just some things to note on that. And I'm actually going to text Wayne to see if he's okay. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second here. But I'll answer some of the comments and the questions for here. I know some of them are for Dwayne, so I'll let him answer those when he is back on. But just saying, what's up, GI? Good evening. Thank you for joining us today. Just with David Dwayne, yes, it's freezing. Yeah, it's definitely freezing weather that's out there. I think it snowed a couple inches the other day in Chicago. So, and then let me just see this here. Good evening, WB. Thanks for joining us today. Shay, thanks for joining us as well. I'll let Dwayne answer those other questions that we have around the VA disability. Thank you, Karen. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Of course, we always appreciate doing this stuff and talking with you guys. And don't forget, you guys can always schedule a call with me down in the description below. A lot of people have taken advantage of that and been able to at least get their questions answered. Even if I can't help you, if you have some finance questions, real estate related questions, always happy to walk you through those. There's no charge for that. And you get to at least talk with me and we can go over whatever your situation is when it comes to your finances. Von Shay, thank you so much for joining us. This is a good question from GI. David, do you know of any organizations that can like with grant that can help with grants to help people? So I'm sure what you're referring to is different down payment assistance programs, which could be grants, it could be community second mortgages that can help assist in giving you money for a down payment or closing costs when using your VA loan. Now, the interesting part with that is that not all grants and programs can actually work with VA home loans. So you really need to double check. And even when they say they can, we ran into this earlier this year where a veteran was able to qualify for a $25,000 grant. And they specifically said on the website that they allowed VA loans, but the VA actually didn't allow that grant program, which I thought was pretty interesting. So you always want to double check them. And another big component of these community seconds, down payment assistance programs, one, if they're underwritten by the state, right, then they normally will have some type of restrictions on refinancing or selling that home where you have to pay a portion of that money back. And the other big thing to that to know is that if you move out of that home, then you have to pay that money back. Another part to this, lenders typically would charge extra fees for those programs. So let's say if you were getting a $10,000 grant, you may not get all 10,000. You may only get 6, and they normally don't have as favorable interest rates. So that's something important to note, because if you have to pay that money, 10,000 back, didn't really get $10,000 back. The way I would look for those, because they are so specific to the area you're looking to buy, including like down to the city and county level. And that's where I would really start with these programs. A lot of times they have housing and development programs in your area, and then you can actually see what the program is offering, how much you make, and do you qualify for that. Now, one thing that I will add to that with qualification, which I think is important to know, is there's recently been a proposal to change the IRS tax code on VA disability not to count as income when it comes to qualifying for various programs like SNAP or housing, like the HUD-VASH program, or any of these any of these assistance programs. So it would still count VA disability as using it for income to qualify for buying a home. If you have a 10% rating or more, then you don't have to pay what's called the VA funding fee, which is a huge positive in that sense. And then you're still able to leverage it, so you kind of have some idea how it comes to that. So hopefully that answered that question. And if they, oh, actually, let me finish that. So when it goes back to like counting it towards income for these down payment assistance programs, hopefully, if that passes, then they won't count that income, because a lot of veterans get disqualified for these down payment assistance programs or grants because they make too much because of their VA disability. So I see Dwayne is rejoining us here shortly, and we'll have him in here. Let's take a look at what else we got on here. Karen, thanks. I think I might mention it. Thanks for joining us on that. And then again, I will throw Dwayne in here to the mix. Dwayne, we got audio. He is joining us. Still, we talk about the sound stuff. We got that figured out. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys letting us know and keeping us updated on this as we're going through. It's Grace. Thank you for not driving. Dwayne, can you hear me? You cut in and out. I think he might be still figuring out his audio right now. But I can hear a little bit, Dwayne. You might have a hard time hearing. Sometimes we get technical difficulties. This is the beauty of being on YouTube.
Can you hear me now, David?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear. I don't know. I've never had that happen before, ever.
No, that's all good.
I'm not even logged in, but I'm here, so I'm not going to touch anything.
It happens to the best of us. Remember, my video has gone out a couple times during live events. I got to reconnect on the phone.
Yeah, I had to put on some a different headset, and it is telling me to log in. So I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to put anything in the comments. I'll let you pop those up and we can go ahead and get into it. Man, that's crazy.
That is. But you know what? That's okay. We survived for a little bit without you.
All right.
Welcome back.
I knew you had it.
Don't
I
call
knew
it a
you had
comeback.
it. You had it on lock. I knew you had it on lock.
Yeah, we had it unlocked, so it's
Yeah.
it's all good. So I was just answering some of the comments in here just that pertain to me. I left yours for when you join us, which yeah, people are acknowledging that they hear you loud and clear. So what's the last thing you were talking about? I didn't hear you before you
Yeah.
disconnected.
I think I was talking about, what are the long-term effects from this, because people are still, I mean, people at the VA are human. I worked there,
Yeah,
I made mistakes. Uh, what is the long-term effect? And I think management sometimes think like, in the military, like, hey, you're on quarters for a couple of days, you come back to work and they're like, oh, you're brand new. You probably still got some soreness in the ankle. You probably can't run that 6 mile run or something like that. But now these people are like, are we going to get back pay all at one time? Because I got to
yeah.
get caught up. I got to put food in the refrigerator. And then I got to come to work. I got to figure out your effective date. I got to figure out, hey, what percentage I'm going to give you. All this information that they have to look through. And one thing that I was telling veterans, and even outside of the shutdown, think about this. And then these individuals still have to meet a quota on top of all that. And that's what a lot of veterans don't understand. That's why I preach education, because if you could put that VA employee in a position to be successful when your claim lands on that desk and you get somebody that's doing it the right way, following the regulations, it can move to the next step. But if you're just throwing tons of information at it, they're like, hey, I was like that. I get a case and they got like 800 pages. I'm like, that's gonna put me behind on my quota.
Oh, 100%.
So
So is he saying the VBA employees, portion of them had time off or were furloughed during this time?
yep.
And so they
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so how does it work with them catching back up on their quotas then?
It's like they're frozen in time, right? And so
Oh,
all of these are questions that they don't even know. Like, when I went through a furlough when I worked there, management didn't know anything. DC wasn't giving any directives. And then check this out. What if you had major surgery scheduled?
oh wow. Yep.
And they're like, okay, yeah, you can take off, but we're gonna count your AWOL. Really? So those are the type of things, like, when stuff happens all of a sudden, it's like, well, what about this? We don't know. That's all I heard. We don't know. 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 But you got to figure out this effective date. You got to go through all, tons of evidence. It's just, it's not good for anybody.
No, definitely not. No, and I think it's unfortunate that it went on for that long, just because it definitely pushed people past that 30 days in the event you didn't have the money. Which I think, which is horrible. And when you were gone, I was telling the people of America that there's been a proposal for a 50-year mortgage, and I am very against that. There was just been a ton of stuff that's been on the internet, like, oh, look at 50-year. Like, it doesn't really. It makes, yes, the payment is slightly lower, slightly, but the ramifications of how much interest you pay are astronomical. Astronomical.
Oh yeah.
It's wild. So I'll be dropping a video, I believe Friday, like breaking it down exactly where, if rates were at 2% or 2.25%, it wouldn't make a difference, but not where they're at right now. And I think they're going to price them higher anyways, because they're just not worth investing for the long term, because a lot of people refinance or they sell within a 7-ish year period. Right. So a lot of times you have to think about that when you're looking at that. So yeah, I was just talking about that. Just letting people know, like, that's not really a good recommendation. And I guess, Dwayne, yeah, and just talking about how VA loans right now are money because the market's getting slower.
Yeah. They were talking about here in Florida. I saw something on the news where there's more homes in inventory right
Yeah.
now, and it's more so leaning towards a buyer's market. And I saw that whole 50-year mortgage thing, and it made me think about, remember when you got a car They now, it was like 5 years now. I think you can get a brand new car and they're like, oh yeah, 72 months financing. But I want that 0% or 0.01% or something like that. But then it may work for you, you know what I'm saying? So you can take some of the extra cash and put on the principal. But I heard that whole 50-year thing. And I was even thinking about, I was like, you know what? I need to connect with David because I got to figure out a formula on what would I need to pay extra money. I know there's a formula. You get your closing disclosure statement and you
Yeah.
multiply something by something and make a whatever that extra payment is. You make it on the principal every month, and then they say it pays down your mortgage, and by 10 years or something like that.
Yeah, so that's just so yeah, one thing to note with mortgages, if you guys don't know, is that even if you have a 30-year mortgage, okay, and you make extra principal payments, you reduce the amount of interest you're paying. And what I mean by that, and I'm going to use a very simple example for myself. So if you have $100,000 mortgage and you make $1,000 payment, $900 in the beginning, let's just say, for example, is all interest, and then you only pay down $100 of that balance, right? So now your new balance is $99,900. You make another $1,000 payment. Now you've made, let's say, $150 worth of interest, $150 principal reduction on that, and the rest of it's interest. And so that's why when you make extra payments, you pay less interest because you're paying interest on less money.
Yep.
So that's the why that happens. So your mortgage payment doesn't change. So let's say you got a $300,000 mortgage, you hit the lotto for $100,000, and then you make $100,000 down payment. Your mortgage payment doesn't change, but your amortization schedule changes. So you can always make, if you can afford it, it's a good idea to make 15-year payments on a 30-year mortgage, so you pay it off in half the time. And if you just do the math of 15 payments times 100, what is that? 180, you're going to see how much money you save. It's kind of crazy, yeah. So 15 months is 180. So even if your mortgage payment, let's say 180 is $2,500 a month, you would save yourself $450,000 of payments. That's pretty wild. So, but that's a good point, Dwayne. Like I was talking with somebody else a couple months ago, and I'm like, wait a second, I should switch my stuff. Like I didn't even do it. So, yeah, but that's okay. But you know what? Always helping folks. So sometimes you kind of forget about yourself.
Yep. That's you're so right.
Yeah. So it's kind of the crazy part of the job, I would say.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you get the book I sent you?
I didn't get the book yet. Number one. Okay. Number two, I checked the tracking, but I'm not home right now. So you guys probably see it's a different studio. But I will be home at some point next week. So then
it should be there. It should be there.
It'll be there. So yeah, so I'll have that to read.
Akil, we have to connect. Akil, I see you. He's a member. He's in our software program. The new software launched last month. So let's connect Akil and figure out he wants to get a bulk of books and pass out to veterans. I would put the link in the comment section, but I am not touching my mouse. I'm not doing anything. So just go to my website, www.kmd-Kilo-Mike-Delta-89.com. Scroll down, you see the book, say grab here, and that's all I'm doing. I'm not touching the mouse or nothing.
That's so funny.
I don't want to mess. I don't want to mess with that. So Dave, quick question. Like, we're coming up on the end of the year, and I think we've talked about this once before. I think I've asked you this. Have you seen more people buying home loans? And I think you and Lourdes was talking about this, like people not wanting to move during the holidays because packing stuff. And I know you all talked about like being up north and being in the snow and stuff like that. So I caught a little bit of that. I don't know how many other people saw that, but do you all see, I don't want to ask if that's a good time because obviously it's not because you're dealing with the holidays. But have you all seen it either go either way? Home loans go down or go up? Or people are applying during that time and closing right after the holidays.
I'll tell you this. This right now is the best, worst time to buy. And I'm going to explain what that means. Okay. November, December, January are my favorite times of the year to buy a home. And it is the worst time to sell a home. And I'm going to explain a couple of things with that. Well, it depends on where you're at. If you're in colder markets, like up north, uh, and you're factoring the holidays, normally people that are listing their home during this time, they're doing it because of a situation, financial. They're moving, PCSing, divorce, marriage, downsizing, upsizing, because they may be empty nesters saying, like, look, I want to sell my property. I'm moving down to Florida, right? Which Florida values right now have gone down to a good amount,
Yep.
and condo, especially because of homeowners insurance. So, but I have a lot of people that reach out and like, hey, David, I'm buying a house in Florida. I don't care. I like the weather, whatever the home's values do. I could afford it. That's fine, right? And then it is what it is. But you have the biggest opportunity to leverage your VA loan during this time. It may not be great for you personally to buy during the holidays of moving and everything else, but capitalize on the opportunity. Because what I don't want to hear is in March, Dwayne, when people are like, we can't win a home because it's too competitive. You got to work with what you have. If you can afford it today, right? And we're going into a soft market. That's like a new term they say for declining market. I like how they do some wordsmithing here. But essentially, you're able to take advantage of potentially lower prices and seller credits because it's not competitive. Your VA loan goes further. You're not putting money down. You're not necessarily competing at people doing 20% down payments, maybe down like in warmer weather regions you may. But I would say this would be like really the best opportunity to take advantage of it. It may not be the right time for you, maybe, but factor that in, because if you're thinking in March, April, May, June, July, those are really like the market heats up, values rebound. It's the same story over and over that we see year over year. Now, finally, if you guys don't know, we're returning to a regular housing market. Like we're returning to how it normally is, right? We see a slowdown during this time, price drops, and then it adjusts. And then if you're waiting for interest rates to drop, you guys saw, I get this all the time, Dwayne. I don't know if people saw out there that the Fed dropped the rates again. And what did mortgage rates do? They went up because they don't correlate 100%. So that's something that people need to consider. Now, they may do some quantitative easing coming up, but that would be like what they did during COVID. That would be really interesting to see, Dwayne. I don't know what the markets would do, but they would most likely, rates would drop. They're proposing around 30 basis points to 1%.
It's so true about the housing rate drop. I get something in the mail like every 6 months, and it'll say, you know, possible current value of your home, and it'll say down or up, from the previous 28 days. And I think this time it was like down 40 grand from 28 days prior. I'm just like, whoa. And I'm still okay with that because when I purchased my home, the value is actually, I'm still doubled than what
Yeah.
I paid for, back in 2017. So I'm like, that's how much it has appreciated over the years. But I've seen it go back up like 60K, and I'm just like, man, it's like up and down. It's not, it's not like I had $5 and I lost like 40 cents or something like that. I lost like $4.50 and I got 50 cents left. You're like, wait a minute, the next month I got $25. It's like the stock market, if you will, but it is crazy. So do we have any questions?
Yeah, I think we had someone here. So I had a
Okay.
CMP exam. The examiner never looked at me. I didn't want to take a picture of a photo. I did ask the questions on the DBQ.
You're going to get some really good examiners, and there's some really good examiners, and there's some that are horrible. I always talk about I had 4 CMP exams before DBQs were published. 2 of those CMP exams were great. They asked questions. They let me ask questions. They were thorough. The other 2 were flat out horrible. I even filed a complaint on one guy, and I said he was discriminating. Now, when you hear that word discriminate, a lot of people say, "Oh, you went in there and say he discriminated against you because you were black." No, he discriminated against me because I felt the discrimination came from me being a veteran. Crazy, right? And little tricks that some of them do. Another lady, she just flat out lied. Once I got the CMP exam, the exam was horrible. And Dave, this is where I get some of my content from. And I tell people, hey, if that exam is horrible, do this. Talk to the supervisor at their clinic or their office, let them know what happened. Leave that doctor a Google review. And there's a survey that you're supposed to get and fill out and send in, and then call the VA. Hey, that examiner was supposed to use a goniometer to measure my range of motion, and they didn't. Now, also veterans say when they get a copy of that CMP exam, guess what's on there? The doctor said they use a goniometer. That's all the VA employees have to go off of. That's it. So you have to take that as face value. So, it takes a little effort on our part if we know what we can do. Should we have to jump through those hoops? No, it happens. Not everybody that works under VBA, under this compensation process, follows the rules. It's sad. It shouldn't be that way. But unfortunately, some people run into those issues.
Yeah, I ran into those issues. So yeah, I definitely it happens where you're like, why, but if you don't speak up, like you mentioned, like you don't fill out the negative, you don't call. Like I was talking to a buddy of mine that recently went through it, and he's like, I went for my exam. It was musculoskeletal exam for like a couple of things, right? He's like, my exam was 10 minutes long. It didn't really ask me too many questions. Yeah, we've been there. I mean, I've been there before. Call them, the VA, and complain about it, because they can then send you to another exam. Like if you don't speak up, they just kind of walk over you. I was talking recently to somebody about like you really need to speak up for that. We have a question here.
I even have a video on that. The VA exam was 5 minutes long. Do this.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's how I came across your channel, right? When I was doing my own research, and we're like, hey, this is like a good fit. So what's this? Do you have any opinions on VA disability going away? Do you think it will happen? What's that about?
Clickbait.
Fear
mongering.
Okay.
You always have like the COB, was it Congressional Office of Budget or something like that, always giving suggestions to Congress, right? I think I think it was during the Trump's first term, he was talking about that, and just give them health care and we could save money and not pay them, compensation. They would have a hard fight on their hands if they said we are taking away veterans benefits. I did a video, I want to say it was last December, where I came across this website just doing research where it was a proposal to Congress. And they were like, hey, if the veteran is not 30%, they don't get paid. And they gave all these different scenarios and then how much money they were saving. People, man, they wanted to tar and feather me for that. And I'm like, look, I didn't propose it. I'm just giving you the information that's out there. And I'm like, this happened 2 months ago, and I'm just now finding out about it. And it was during Biden's administration, but then I didn't see it until the new administration. And so then people were getting all political. I'm like, stop. Read what they're proposing. Just read. And people did not want to read. They were just like, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and
just
wild. Read. Just read it. And I don't think that they're going to implement anything like that, but we still need to know. So if you go into town halls or you're in that room with that congressperson, hey, what are you voting for? I'm a veteran. Are you there for me or what? You gotta, like you said earlier, you gotta speak up.
Yeah, you gotta speak up. Yeah, it's definitely wild with that. All right, we got one here. I would hate to have a claim pending during this time frame when people are not or hot because they're not getting paid. I mean, that could probably swing some emotions, and people may go through things faster than they
Yeah.
really should. Um, so that's good. I said someone here. I do enjoy your guys' podcast. Thank you. It's very informative. I did my CMP exam on my own, and I was quite productive all through your teachings. So yes, Dwayne, I speak
Congrats.
to a lot of people of yours that watch your channel, and they're like, I couldn't have done this without Dwayne. Like, and it's true because, like you say, it's like I got a video for that, and just like with VA home loan stuff, like what I do, you really have to give yourself a baseline, right? You need to educate yourself so no one can take advantage of you. So you can actually uh, ask questions because, you know, a lot of the videos we do are like general videos or they're about this condition or that condition. Hey, I have that. Let me look at it. I'm like, oh, wait a second. I now have a baseline understanding, but how does it apply to me? And now you do a little bit more deeper research on that. All right, cool. A lot of these next comments are all can't hear Dwayne, can't hear Dwayne.
I'm
That's
not
okay.
even touching my mouse. I'm like,
Someone said, I thought that was a joke. No, you cannot silence Dwayne. Only a failed mic can do
yeah.
that. So let's see here. I know Grace and I did answer, I think, this question. Any special programs for incentives for veterans with disability income? Oh, I didn't answer this one. So this one's a good one. So when it comes to your VA home loan, the one big thing that you get if you have a 10% or greater rating is you don't pay the VA funding fee. This applies to buying a home, interest rate reduction, refinance loans, cash out refis, construction loans, rehab loans. You don't pay the VA funding fee on any of that, including VA assumption. So you have that. I don't know, and let me know in the comments if you guys know, if a specific home program just for disabled veterans that is offered through like a grant or a down payment assistance program. I will say that, and then with a caveat that the VA does have a specially adapted housing grant. Okay, so you guys can look at that on the VA's website. They give you like over 100,000 to modify your home, but it's like only like 200 and some people can qualify for it a year. But a lot of people don't know it exists, right? So if you have a disability that would qualify for that, highly encourage you to reach out to the VA. But you guys could look that up on the just look up the specially adapted housing grant on the VA's website. But I don't know if there's any other programs that exist with that.
Under the VHA side, under the prosthetics department, they have the HISA
Okay.
grant, which is a one. I know it used to be just a one time, and I think they're probably like just 7 to 8 grand or something like that.
Oh,
But it's called the HISA grant, and I used to rate that special adaptive housing. Man, you just had to know like loss of use below the knee, above the knee, the right hand, loss of use of the buttocks, the muscles. It was a lot because those veterans would have to get a special shower because they lost use in the buttocks, and so they couldn't get up. They had a hard time getting up out of a seated position, so they had special showers they had to build for them and stuff like that. Those were some hard ratings to rate.
yeah, no, definitely for that. And they also have like special vehicle grants you can get if you have if you're disabled. So you gotta do and they may have some special programs based on the city and county you live in as well. But that's more, I think, VA disability related for like transport, adaptive housing. Home loan side, it's not as that. Now, before Dwayne, when you took a pause from me, I talked about that IRS change to make VA disability, or change the IRS tax code to not make VA disability count as income for the purposes of housing of programs like SNAP, HUD VASH, and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's still in the works. We'll see how far they get, but I think that's just going to be a ton of money that they would have to dish out. And kind of to your point earlier was, if VA disability, for them just to say snap, it's gone, you have all these millions of veterans that count on that income, and you would have an instant overnight massive default on housing,
Oh yeah.
mortgages, rent, credit cards, installment loans, car loans. It would be savage what would happen. It would be total chaos on that. So
But like you said, savings,
yep.
people can do things like, if you got a whole life insurance, does it have a certain cash value? Like you always talk about line of credit. People always want to give you money when you don't when you say
Oh yeah, well, yeah. When you
when you
when you
don't
don't
need
need
it.
money, yeah, people
Right.
want to give it to you. Yeah.
Right. So if you got a whole life policy with some cash value, it may be enough in there where you can take a loan. There's no credit check. They could, wire it to you, go, direct deposit it right into your checking account. And that possibly could hold you over because, a lot of people, we didn't know, man, they shut down people. I was like, oh, they'll be back in by the next pay period.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
3 checks later, still
Mhm.
nothing.
I know. I looked at my military stuff today to see if I'm getting paid, and I look and I'm like, it just shows like nothing, and I'm like, like what's going on with this thing? But it's all good on that
Yeah.
front. Yeah, it's the savings, and yeah, like you said, Wayne, when you don't need money, people want to give it to you, and when you need it, they don't. And
Right.
this is why such a huge fan of something that I don't even offer, which is a home equity line of credit, right? Like you should, if you have equity, just have one in case, right? This is my personal opinion. Again, I'm not even, I don't even do these. You can't even call me to do that. Um, so I encourage you just to have something and find something with low fees or no fees, and you only use you only pay interest on what you use, right? And whatever those terms
Mm.
are, just make sure you read through it. If you're like, David, I got questions, then please reach out to me, and I'm happy to help you with that.
I was gonna say if you don't do it, you could definitely give somebody, provide some answers on,
Yeah, for sure.
like is this a good deal? Is it not a good deal? How is it done? You know, the difference between what is it, a HELOC and
The
what
HE
else?
loan? Those are huge.
HELOC.
So fixed rate versus like a line of credit. So a lot of times when you don't need money, you get a HELOC, right? Variable interest, whatever. Like again, this is like as an emergency. So I did talk to a lot of people during this shutdown that had HELOCs, so they're able to easily save themselves. But people that didn't have really good credit weren't able to access credit. I mean, this also helps you. Like I had a guy reach out to me recently that he bought a home not long ago, and his VA he works, but his disability for what he had was kind of getting to him. He bought a home that was too big, and he's like, "Man, I don't know what to do right now. I bought a home like 2 years ago. My mental condition has kind of gotten worse over time. I can't handle having this big house. I'm by myself." And he called me because he's like, "I want to short sale my house." And I'm
Mm,
like thinking to myself, but he didn't know the process at all. So his question to me was like, "Well, what do you think the bank is going to do if I want to do a foreclosure short sale?" Number one, a lot of negative things. You start becoming late on your mortgage, or they'll ask you like, "Are you not late so you can make the payments?" They'll do a financial review. Guess what? You make enough money to qualify for this, so they may not qualify you for it, and then your credit just takes a huge drag through that. Um, but what he was able to do was he brought up a good point. It was a pretty out of the box thinking because they were really only short like $40,000 um, to sell the property so he could just get out of it. So what he did was took out a $40,000 personal loan, sold his house 40,000 on what he bought it for. He paid the 40,000 from his own money. Okay, so he's negative 40,000. Credit's intact. He didn't lose that portion of his VA benefits, and then just went and rented a place to still save a ton of money. So you
mm,
really got to look at your financial picture to see where it makes sense. Like, so sometimes being creative is what it takes, but where you don't want to be in that position, Dwayne, where you're at the tail end of like, oh man, we're like, this is it. We're gonna be late on everything, and we don't have any money saved up. Yeah, you wouldn't want
right.
to be there for that. Akil asks, what if you do the 50-year, but you big picture payments every 7 to 9 months to pay off around 7 to 10 year, depending on the loan amount. So that's interesting. So just like with a 30-year mortgage, you can make 15-year payments and you pay it off in 15 years. So the same concept is here. I mean, I guess in theory, you could do like a pay option arm like they used to do back in the day where you have like pick 3 different payments. So in theory, you could do that, right? You could make a 50-year or anytime in between this, a 40, a 30, a 20, 15, or a 10-year mortgage payment as you want, right? So if you want flexibility, then going with longer term can help you, but knowing that you're going to make extra payments. And with that being said, I will tell you that people will ask about 15-year mortgages all the time. But when we look at them, when we look at their financial picture, it normally is for what a lender sees a very tight ratio. So we normally would recommend do a 30-year to give yourself flexibility in case something goes wrong, but make 15-year payments. Like that makes sense. Like you don't put yourself in a bad financial position that would just ruin you financially on that side. Someone asking, can you explain the utilities amount per square foot? I hope I'm asking a right question. So what she's referring to, I think it's because she watched my recent video. So when it talks about the VA factors in square footage of your home and 14 cents per square foot for utility costs to qualify you for a loan, which Dwayne, I think is smart because in one way it's smart because people don't realize how much utility costs are. But I think that's on the low end, unless you have high efficiency everything. Like, let's just say, like, let me pull up my phone to see, like, a 2,500 square foot house, right? So 2,500 times 0.14 is $350. So I don't know about you, but I feel like utility costs are more than $350 on a 2,500 square foot home, especially probably in Florida. Your air conditioning bill's got to be crazy. So you want to think about that, right? So that 14 cents per square foot is going to be factored into your residual income, which if you check out my channel, I have a whole video on that as well. So these questions for you.
What if my disability rating increases after I close on my loan? Can I get a refund of the funding fee? That's for you.
Oh, that is for me. So I would say it's a good question. So if you go into the home buying process with a 10% or greater VA disability rating, your VA funding fee is not, you're going to be waived completely. And so if you change it from 10 to 100%, and let's say 100% permanent total, and your state or county offers you to be exempt from property taxes, well, that'll be a benefit that you'll get. Now, if you don't have a rating or you're at 0% at the time that you're buying a house, but you file an intent to file, right? So let's say you filed one on November 1st of 2025. It's November 12th. Today you're closing on your home, but you don't get your disability rating until, I don't know, November of 2027. But if they backdated to November 1st of today's date, 2025, then you would get a refund of that money. And that's why it's so important to at least file your intent to file before you close on the home, right? Because the VA funding fee could be expensive. That's a great question because a lot of people don't realize that. And even viewers of yours, Dwayne, that call me and they're like, I haven't filed for my VA disability yet. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know why. File it, so at least you earmark that time. And then you can go through that process of going to buying a property.
So, Dave, who are you when you contact the mortgage company? Are you contacting the escrow department to say, "Hey, I should be refunded my funding fee because now I've been granted at least 10% effective back to whatever date"? Is that the escrow department that they ask for that refund from?
Well, there's a couple things. So one, you contact the VA for the VA funding fee refund.
Okay.
If your rating is increased to a point that you don't pay property taxes, you're going to do a couple of things. One, if it's backdated 2 years, right, you can technically file a certificate of error. So now you're going to get a refund from the county of those 2 years of taxes. If your county does that, some of them don't do certificate of error, meaning going back in time. The other thing is you would contact your escrow company once you have the official zero tax bill to say, mortgage company, here's my tax bill. It shows zero money. Please refund my current escrow account. Also, you have to make sure that depending on what county you're in and depending on your disability rating, sometimes you have to file every single year. In other areas, and I'll give Illinois as an example, if you're 100% permanent in total, you only need to file once, and that's it. Everyone else has to file every single year. 100% PNT. You have a regular 100%. You have a 70%, 80%, 90%. You have to file that every year. And what's crazy too, Dwayne, is that people will miss that window. It's like in the March timeframe, and it's online, and they're not really super active about promoting it. And you miss that timeline. What will happen is then all of a sudden taxes will be assessed, and then you won't be able to get those removed to the following year. I've seen people go into foreclosure because of that, because they start missing payments, and you can't make partial payments to your mortgage company. So if you owe $2,500 and you only make $2,000, but $500 of that is taxes, guess what? You're late on your mortgage, and then it's extremely hard to catch up. So, yeah, I think it's crazy, but that's just. But it falls on you to know that, not you personally, but everyone watching.
Right. And the same thing with intent to files. I talk to veterans, they like, oh, my intent to file is about to expire. What can I do? It's like, Bernie Mac said, hey, people come asking for money because they got about to get their car repoed or the house foreclosed. You should have came to me 3 or 4 months ago and asked for help. I don't understand how individuals let their intent to file expire. And I know there's some certain situations, hospitalization, maybe a vet in a coma, whatever. But I talk to vets and I'll say, hey, when the last time you took a vacation? Oh, yeah, me and my family went to Mexico a few months back for a whole week. But you didn't do nothing with your claim. You had to spend time to book the tickets, the resort, all of that. You had 365 days. You couldn't find 2 hours out of 365 days to submit a claim. That makes sense.
No. And that's why you really, I mean, look, sometimes you have to get medical releases. Sometimes it takes more work, but it's worth it at the end. Even when I just went through a TAPS class, they're like, well, he's like, everybody in this room should be disabled. That's what literally the guy says. Like, everybody in this room should be disabled, at least 10%. He's like, I mean, this is like 80 seconds over here and stuff like that. So like, if you're jumping out of planes, I mean, unless you've fallen like a gracious angel every single time out of the sky, please, I'm happy for you, but that's not what happened to me. But that's great, right? So documentation is probably like one of the most important things when it comes to that. And Dwayne, you touched on something really important right towards the end that I want to touch on. Things happen in life, right? You have a VA disability, you're service connected for it, and something can happen because of your service connection, right? You may pass away, you may get in an accident, and you're talking about those bills. And I want to touch on that because it is so important to understand your financial picture. Again, I cannot stress that enough. And also set up auto pay. Set it up so things are paid. Now you have to manage your bank account very well. And I would encourage you, I'm just going to turn into like a business class. I encourage you to use a calendar. So you know when bills are being taken out. I set up all my bills personally. I use an Excel sheet, by the way, Dwayne. I don't use anything fancy and apps. I literally track an Excel sheet because it's not fun. And it forces me to look at every single account that I have. It forces me to look at my transaction history. So then I know where the money's going. Then I set up auto pay and I have everything. And for me, everything's scheduled on the first of the month, right? Pay comes in. I know on that day, everything, the utilities, everything is paid on that day. So even if it's well ahead of time, but I know when the bills are coming out, it just creates you financial freedom. So you know how much money you can put aside for savings, for that rainy day fund. All those things are so important to really understand that process.
Most definitely. I pay bills. I think, and I look at like one of my credit card bills. and I don't have a payment due for like 8 months because I
Yeah.
just pay, and then I pay it off, and it just I get the rewards, and Christmas time, right? So my bank, I log into a website. I got 100,000 points. I'm going Christmas shopping, and I don't have to
We're
dig
going Christmas
into
shopping.
yeah, I don't have to dig into my wallet or use my card, and it all ships as long as I do it at least a couple of weeks before Christmas. It ships here to the house. I wrap it, pass it out, and they got some really nice gifts like Bose headsets and different things. Set of knives, kitchen knives, a knife set, all that stuff. And I'm like, kids need plates. I got you some plates and forks for
That's so
Christmas.
funny. And
So
some credit cards actually let you have a negative balance, so you can make payments so it's negative. So now you have a credit on your account. So that's some cards can let you do that. So if you're like, hey, I own, but again, that goes back to your budgeting. If we're budgeting X amount of money, that's what it is. So I know we're hitting our time right now.
you
You got
got
a
one
question?
question out there, Dave. I don't. It said
Yeah, I'm not
algorithm.
sure what it is. I'm using Grok to help me navigate the home buying process. Been working out pretty well. I'm not sure who that is on that process, but I'm happy to help you guys out there utilize and leverage the VA home loan. If you schedule a call with me in the description, always happy to walk you through those options, because I think, Dwayne, a lot of people, the value we bring is that we kind of bring a neutral perspective to it, right? What's your positive part, negative part? You're not pushed into anything. We just have a conversation, and then we kind of see, does something make sense? Does it not? A lot of veterans get, I feel like they're getting tricked or scammed into these interest rate reduction refinance loans, when a lot of times the people that do reach out to me, I look at it, I'm like, doesn't make any sense. Yeah, you're saving a little bit of money, but look how much they're charging you. Yeah, so that's the wild part to me, to that. So, but yeah, I wanted to, any closing thoughts, Dwayne?
No, that's it. Got Christmas. The holidays coming up. I think this is actually the best time to file a claim. You know, with minus the government shutdown, because it's crazy what they might do. Hey, everybody comes back to work. Now we're going to offer overtime, and guess how many people are going to be taking that overtime, right? So they're going to be working more. They're going to be going through claims, but you don't know if they're going to offer overtime at all. So if you can get some inside information, some raters, or hey, are they offering you all overtime? You might want to get that claim in because they're working Saturdays, they're working extra hour or two a day. But we just don't, nobody knows as of yet. VA knows, but we don't know.
They don't want to share. I guess one last question popped up. If you're rated at 94%, paid out at 90, which that's what it'd be, yes, you can use that money to qualify for a VA home loan. So that is a really good question. I think there's some other here. Jason, do you have a real estate agent you use or recommend? Yeah, if you guys schedule a call with me, always happy to set you out for that. Somebody, hey there, from the most inspected manufactured home in the South. Yes, I know who this is. He's David. He was great, even on days when I was frustrated. We were both frustrated. I'll tell you that. Listen, guys, I'll tell you one thing. And I'm actually going to make a whole separate video on this.
You just turned red, so that must have been a heck of a conversation.
It was funny, man. The things that sometimes we go through, like, just imagine how I buy a house almost every day, and it is sometimes it's kind of crazy. I'll tell you this. And I was recently with a buddy of mine that I helped buy a house. Okay, he's in my unit, and I asked him, we're at a sniper range because we were running ranges, and we're talking, and I'm like, listen. Tell me, just be honest. What's the hardest part of this whole process of buying a house? And he looked at me and he goes, you know what? Doing actual process of the house is actually not, it's just process. The hardest decision I had to make was to buy a house. The decision to do that, right? And I feel like, Dwayne, that 100% relates to disability, because it's that I'm gonna file, maybe I won't, but when you commit to filing, that's when your life changes. Right now, you're
Oh
going
yeah.
through those different steps, and that's why I encourage you guys to be able to at least go through that process so you know where you're at. So I'll leave it with that. I just want to thank everyone who joined us tonight. Happy belated Veterans Day. I know I didn't do a live event yesterday. Out celebrating myself. And if you guys have any questions, please schedule a call with me or talk with Dwayne. And Dwayne, I look forward to that book coming in. Should
Oh
be
yeah.
in sometime this week. I gotta check the
Yep.
tracking. So
Yeah.
appreciate
I'm
everyone
filing.
joining us.
Yeah, I'm filing a claim, not an actual claim, but an example claim, so people can follow along.
That's awesome, and that's what you need,
Follow along.
because there's no matter if you still feel like I'm confused in the process, but that's why I got experts like you. That's okay though. But thanks guys for joining us today. If you in the description below, you can schedule a call. If you go to VA Housing Education, my YouTube channel, you guys will see that you can any of my videos right at the top of the description. You can schedule a call with me, and I'll walk you through whatever you're trying to do. So, with that being said, you guys have a great night. Happy belated Veterans Day, and we'll catch you guys on the next.